So before we begin the presentation, I would like to acknowledge that while we are joining virtually from many locations, the UBC Vancouver campus is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And now I'd like to turn over the presentation to Perkins Will with Aaron.
Thank you, Karen. So we'll start with a brief presentation summarizing the design of the Gateway project, and then we can get into detail on any specific items that you may have comments or questions on. So first, we'd like to recap a summary of the 4 key goals that the Gateway building, for the Gateway building that were established at the beginning of the project with UBC. And those include, firstly, the fact that this sits at a very prominent location on the campus and will serve the role of defining the academic gateway to UBC. Secondly is the importance of representing and acknowledging the host nation and the Musqueam people through this project, and that's been part of an ongoing process and really seeking to engage them and express the Musqueam culture through this project. Health and well-being is a third important key objective for the project as kind of core to the design, given the types of schools, nursing, kinesiology, et cetera, that are going to be in this building. And then fourth is the project is seeking to achieve net zero carbon certification, and that is another primary driver of the design. A brief overview on the project site and how the immediate context has influenced the project. The Gateway building sits at one of the principal gateways to the campus and really at the threshold between the UBC campus and the university endowment lands. So the design seeks to respond to both the significance of this site as a gateway site to the campus, but also fit into the character and scale of the existing university fabric. The project site itself is bound by University Boulevard on the south, Westbrook Mall on the east, and by multi-purpose laneways on both the west and north sides of the building. The central building, which is immediately west of the site along University Boulevard, includes parkade access and waste servicing off of that existing laneway. And it's important to note also there's a BC Hydro right-of-way that runs the full length of the east edge of the site. The laneways to the west and the north will continue to serve as service access for the Gateway building and adjacent buildings as a one-way loop entering along University Boulevard and exiting onto Westbrook Mall. And it's also important to note that the laneway running north-south is going to continue to serve as an important pedestrian connection to the bus exchange that's north of the Gateway site and connecting to the pedestrian muse that runs west, connecting to the heart of campus. So we'll run through next a high-level overview of the design rationale for the project and how that's evolved or come to be on this site, beginning with a series of diagrams that describe that evolution. So kind of starting from first principles was recognizing the importance of open space. And this came out of conversations specifically with the Musqueam host nation as a starting point for the design and conceptualizing the site in its original form as an indigenous landscape. From there, desire lines were mapped onto the site to discover patterns of movement and creating opportunities for meaningful open space and an organizing framework for program and circulation. Program blocks are then placed around those desire lines to emphasize the formal main entry on University Boulevard, as well as secondary entrances to the building on the west and the east sides of the building to align with that pedestrian muse axis. The building program was organized firstly into a 6-story massing, and that was to allow for exposed mass timber structure within the building, as is permitted under the current building code. So at that height, the building footprint assumes essentially the full footprint of the site. The massing was then divided into 2 bars to create an atrium that brings daylight into the center of what is a large footprint and emphasizing the front door to the south along University Boulevard. The ground floor was then recessed to provide more generosity at the ground plane, and the entire massing has been shifted north to create breathing room along University Boulevard and engage the landscape as a part of that gateway experience. To strengthen and punctuate that gateway expression, the building reflects the institutional massing and treatment of both the Alumni Center and the Strangway buildings, creating a bookend and an anchor at this important threshold. Existing development along University Boulevard is primarily retail focused at grade. So in order to extend that streetscape character to the Westbrook Mall corner, the ground floor of the Gateway building is transparent along the south facade with retail and informal seating inside and out. And then the angled building facade at the south end of the building acknowledges the university and the community and offers a bit of a play with the Strangway building across the street, framing the public realm and creating a welcoming and distinctive point of arrival. The landscape and site design illustrate a conceptual approach of rewilding the Gateway site, which has been informed directly by conversations that we've had with Musqueam. And that engagement process with Musqueam is ongoing, and the landscape will continue to be developed further through this dialogue, and in conjunction with a parallel study that's looking at the reimagining of the University Boulevard landscape. So once that landscape has been more fully developed, this will be resubmitted as an addendum to the development permit and AODP applications. The building itself is organized into 2 equal bars that house the academic program, flanking a central daylit atrium that visually connects all of the floors together. A modular exposed mass timber structure serves as an organizing element that is designed to allow for flexibility of the building over time. And that central atrium is really thought of as the social heart of the building. It's activated by interconnecting stairs and social spaces that are linked back to views and light. At the ground level, multiple entrances extend the public realm of the site into and through the building. Along University Boulevard, the full extent of the south facade is programmed as an open cafe and study space that continues that activity within the landscape and the existing frontages and opens the building directly onto that gateway plaza that has been identified. Building servicing, including waste and loading, are concentrated along the north edge of the building and are accessed off of that north laneway. The upper floors are comprised of densely organized teaching, research, and workspace program that serve the academic and pedagogical needs and vision of the schools that are moving into the Gateway building. A cross-section through the building describes how circulation is organized around that central atrium and how the ground floor is recessed to express the timber structure and merge the building with landscape. And I think that's shown in this view along the east edge of the building along Westbrook. That expression of the mass timber structure is really deeply connected to the goals of the project, supporting health and wellness through biophilic properties, reflecting the traditional Musqueam building materials, bringing warmth and creating a welcoming entry to the campus, and celebrating the use of low embodied carbon materials in this net zero project. And a north-south section through the building highlights how that timber structure and cladding are celebrated within the building's public and interior spaces. These are some perspective views of that atrium space that describe the light-filled space that extends all the way to the south facade, creating a welcoming gesture along University Boulevard and displaying the energy and activity within the building. The overall material palette for the Gateway building seeks to present a distinct Gateway expression using materials that build on the vocabulary and existing campus character, and that evoke a strong sense of place that's reflective of our natural context through the use of natural and local materials. The exterior ground floor is clad in local natural wood materials, bringing an inviting and textural quality to the building, particularly at the human scale. and using horizontally applied boards that are representative of the Musqueam tradition of building. In contrast, the two program bars from levels 2 through 6 are clad in an off-white three-dimensional cladding that connects back to the campus design guidelines. And the design intent is really to use a natural material with visual variation that provides texture and relief to those facades while self-shading the full height glazing at each floor. With that, we'll conclude the overview presentation and certainly welcome any comments or questions